Hey everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. And just a reminder, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Today, I want to do a little something more with what we've explored the last couple of weeks. We had the chicken wire and the kind of not really wonky spider web, because this is not wonky at all. And I guess we could kind of make it wonky, but for my purposes today, I think I want to do something like this. Several people mentioned, and I think it's a good idea too, maybe having a narrow strip in between the triangles so that it looks more like a spider web. But I want to keep this concept of a narrow band here for, as we did in the chicken wire, but then have a narrow band here, which has one interesting, it's going to require us to have a couple extra steps, but we can deal with that, right? And then also some kind of embellishment. We talked about circles on here, and I still like the idea of circles, but I want to explore maybe another idea. So what I'm thinking is that I'll do something like this with black and a bright color. This is looking very Halloweeny at the moment, isn't it? With a bright color, either a solid or a print, I don't know. And then I think just a very narrow strip of a black and white stripe, no wider, with the stripe no wider than this. And the strip will probably be more narrow than that. And then trying another embellishment thing on here. The thing we're going to have to deal with when we add a strip is we'll add it on just one side, of course, but then we have to recut the angle. It doesn't matter if it gets wider overall, as long as the angle is the same. And if I add a straight strip here, then I'm not going to have that angle down there. So we'll have to recut that. We could not and make it wonky, but then if we want to put it together, that's a whole other story. So all we're going to look at today is just the narrow strip and the embellishment. So I will prepare a strip set similar to this. I decided to do some cave prints in between here, and you'll notice that I spliced these in at an angle. This is barely at an angle, but at an angle, which meant that I needed to square this up so that this is a consistent width across here. And now I can do my 60-degree cuts again. I still have not found my 60-degree ruler. So I'm just going to be using this. If you want to see how I use the ruler to do 60 degrees, then you can check out the, what did we call it? The chicken wire video, and I will try to remember to link that down in the description. So I will go ahead and cut myself 6 60-degree triangles. And then I've decided that I'm going to try this stripe in between, maybe. We'll see. I lucked out and I have just the right amount there. And if we put all of those together, then we will get a spider web, or a very complicated chicken wire, an overly complicated chicken wire. I like that, actually. These are not as crazy wild as the original one because I have two, so they kind of cancel each other out when they're a little wild, but I kind of like that. So now we want to put a stripe in between these. It could be a white stripe, it could be a bright stripe. I think I'd maybe do a solid stripe if I was doing a solid stripe. A solid bright if I were doing a bright. Could do a different size of stripe. do white, could do black for that matter, set that off a little bit, but let me try a solid color here, a solid bright color. Go into my stash. Oops, sorry. I was going to do this green where I have the prints now, but I was really getting Halloweeny then, and I'm just not that big a fan of Halloween. All right. That's really more striking. It looks more cobwebby. Well, I don't know. I have thoughts. I have many thoughts. I could alternate. I think I actually like the bright better than the stripe. Doggone it. I was going to do that stripe. What will I do if I don't have a stripe in one of my pieces? Oh, no. I really do think I prefer that. I guess it depends on the effect that I want, but I do love bright, so I think this is going to be it. Who knew? See, I went to all the trouble to clean the edges up of this a little better so it would look better for you. I have to use it somewhere. Yes, I think that green is going to be it. Who knew? So, oh yes, there is a little bit of green in there. All right, so I'm going to cut some narrow strips of that, and then I'm going to sew it on just one side, because then of course they'll all meet and be double-sided. So I'm going to make these, I'm going to make them a little bigger than what's in the center. All right, so if we think about the structure of a cobweb, I have no idea. Would these be wider? It's a question, I guess, I don't want it too wide, of contrast in sizes. We've got lots of contrast between the black and the prints in the green. I think I'm going to do it about this width, which is, I'm cutting it 5/8. So I think I will do that, and I'll cut some strips, and I'll go ahead and sew them on the sides here. I don't have to check back in with you about how to do that, clearly. I will go off and do that and be back. One more option, lest I second guess myself later. If I put a print in here, what would that look like? And this is the same print as this. And it's all right, but it's very meh, kind of. It's nondescript. I don't think it's adding much to the design that I'm looking for, which is to have a little oomph in between. This is, I don't want to say sedate exactly, but it just doesn't have that pop that I'm looking for. Doesn't mean it's wrong or bad, depending on the quilt and the design that you want to do. It's just not what I'm looking for. So I'd be interested in hearing in the comments what you would have liked to do here. I'm going to go ahead with the green. We'll see what happens. Let me know. I have added a green strip on one side of each of these, and then I have trimmed the seams so that when I do the other seam, there won't be that extra bulk, and they won't be folding the other seam back on itself. Now I have cut each of these long, just because when I'm doing an angle, I like to make sure that I've got enough to finish off that angle once it is turned back and pressed. They're going to still be 60 degrees. Let me do this here. So this is my 60-degree line. It could be a little bit off from when I cut it the first time. So here's the 60-degree line, and it's lining up over here pretty well. And I'm going to use that just to double check, and then trim off that end, and then this end. And do that with the rest of them. was laying these out, and here's something fun we could also do, is to something like that and outline those. That's not what we set out to do, so I won't do that, but all right, I just had to make sure I was alternating prints here. Doesn't really matter. I just am doing it. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew these into 2 half hexagons. We'll see how that looks, and then I'll explain what I'm thinking about doing for embellishment. And here we have the half hexagons. I've tried to overlap them enough you could get the final effect of the green. And I like it. It might be interesting to have different colors going around so that you almost have a color wheel kind of effect. We do have sort of a spiral coming in here, which I think is fun. Now, my idea for embellishment is to just, other than circles, which of course I'm always going to go with that, but kind of going back maybe to the chicken theme, the chicken wire theme. I'm thinking about some smaller kinds of embellishments. So what I've done here is just taken a scrap of white so I could see the contrast. And then I've just done a zigzag, or a satin stitch really, with a zigzag stitch. And I think it was like 4.0 wide and 0.5 distance. So I'm kind of liking that. It's just a small little bit, but I think if I do it in bright colors, then it will add some little pops around here. So I've got a pink and an orange in here, and I could do a green. I've got a teal here. So I think I'm going to try doing that. Now, when I did this, I had stabilizer underneath it, and then I pulled the top thread to the back so that I could knot it and tie it off back here, so it isn't going to ravel and you're not going to see the ends up here since it's such a tiny thing. And I went forward and then back over it, so it's kind of locking itself in. So I think that'll work all right. I just moved all of my bright rayon thread downstairs again, of course, so now I'm going to go grab a couple of colors and just do a couple of them. I could make them different sizes. Sorry, black fingernail, yeah. I could do different sizes by doing different widths and then lengths, of course. And here are the fruits of my labor. This is the first one that I did, and it's a little sloppy. When I took off the stabilizer, I pulled a thread. So, but this one, I just wanted to show you the density. I just went over it and back on it. This one, I did a little more, and I went over it and back, and then back again. And this one, which I like best, I went over it and I did it 4 times. So I'm liking that one. And I did actually bump the stitch distance, that's stitch length, down to 0.4. This was done at 0.5, this was done at 0.4, and going back and forth. So you would just need to play with it on your own machine and figure out which works best. This one I'm just going to take out and redo because it's pretty sad, but I wanted to show you what it looked like when it wasn't so dense. And I like this much better with the greater density on it. That is it for our sewing adventure today. Again, I'd love to know what your choice would be for putting on the spines here. I'm really liking that spiral. I didn't see that until today, but I'm really liking that. There's something else I wanted to just show you what I'm up to. I'm taking an Infinite Possibilities with Strip Piecing from Sheila Frampton Cooper last week and this week. It's online, and I have been, our first task is to be doing some building blocks for strip piecing, and then we'll start putting them together and doing the connections and all of that. But I wanted to show you some of the strip pieces I've done. The inspiration for the color scheme came from a photo from a Greek island. It wasn't Santorini, but I don't remember what it was. And I'd show it to you, except that it isn't my photo, so I don't want to share it without permission of the photographer. But if you think about the Greek islands and the bright white with the sun on all of the bright white buildings, and then they've got accents of blue, often sometimes the pink. But the photo that I had a big lush bougainvillea growing next to this house with the teal door, and then there was a little bit of green that showed up at the leaves on the bougainvillea. That was mostly pink. It was pretty lush. So I've just been doing some strip pieces, and some of these will be cut up more. They'll be combined differently. Things will be added. I'm a long way from finished. But I'm finding that my favorite is actually this one, where it has sort of the opposing curves going on. I really like that. And I like this multiple strips in there. In some ways, it's almost like Seminole piecing, some of these. So it's going to be fun to put these together. When I started out, there wasn't enough white. I am a real white fan anyway. I know a lot of quilters aren't and say it's just blah, but I really like white, especially the contrast between white and brights. Black and brights are wonderful too, of course, but I really like that bright light feeling. So I'm having fun with this. We'll just have to see what happens from here. I'll keep you up to date. The only thing I started out having some different grays. So there's a very light gray here somewhere. Yes, this is a very light gray rather than a white. And then this was the next step up in gray. And I had possibilities for much darker grays, but that one is now too dark for me. The most that I want to do is that very lightest gray, and that's okay. I don't mind having a little bit of contrast and interest and texture in the background, but I'm really liking that white. I started out with not very much white in it, and it just did not look like the island to me. So that's what I am up to last week and this week, which is why this video may be a little short. Haven't kept track of the time, but it might be a little short this week. So that will be it for this week. Next week will be, I maybe have something in mind. We'll see. It's going to be another maybe wonkified regular block. We'll see how it goes. Or maybe something will come up in the meantime. I'm looking forward to your comments, and I hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.